They threw me out into the rain with my 3-day-old baby, left me bleeding on the street like garbage. My husband chose his mistress over me. His family took everything I built. They thought I was nobody. Just another desperate woman married above her station. What they didn't know was that I am Valentina Romano, the only daughter of Don Vittorio Romano, the man who controls every port, every street, every politician from New York to Miami. And when my father found out what they did to me, let's just say, they learned why you never cross the Romano family. This is my story, and trust me, you'll want to hear how it ends. My name is Valentina Romano, but for 3 years I was known as Valentina Moretti, the weak, submissive wife of Marco Moretti, a mid-level enforcer in the Castellano crime family. I loved him. I built his career. I hid my true identity to give him a chance at real love, not arranged marriage. Big mistake. Because when you hide who you are in the Mafia world, people forget that respect is earned through blood. And I was about to remind them all. The luxury suite at the Rossi family's private maternity compound was supposed to be my sanctuary. 3 days after giving birth to my son, Alessandro, I was still recovering. My body ached, my heart was full. I'd finally given Marco the heir he claimed he wanted. That's when they burst in. "This luxury suite is really something else," a cold female voice said. "It's just a shame some people won't be staying long." I looked up from my sleeping baby. 3 people stood in my doorway. Isabella Castellano, Marco's business associate, though I knew she was more than that. Beside her, 2 enforcers from the Castellano family, hands resting on the guns at their waists. "Who are you?" I demanded, pulling my son closer. "This is a private room. How did you get past security?" Isabella's smile was poison. "Hello, Mrs. Moretti. We're from the Castellano family's accounting division. According to family financial regulations, your stay at this maternity compound, this expensive expense, was never approved by the Don. We're here to collect the full payment, immediately." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? Marco arranged this. Marco?" Isabella laughed, a cruel sound. "Marco doesn't have authorization to spend family money on personal indulgences. Every cent spent requires Don Castellano's signature, including the money spent on you." She stepped closer, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "You don't actually think marrying Marco makes you family, do you? You're nobody. Just a woman who got pregnant and trapped a rising soldier. Now, pack your things and get out." "I spend my husband's money," I said, keeping my voice steady even as my hands shook. "I don't need approval from family accountants." Isabella's eyes flashed. "Marco's personal expenses all require approval. A freeloader like you doesn't deserve Castellano money." "I founded the territory Marco manages," I shot back, the lie coming easily. "I'd helped him, guided him, used my family's connections without him knowing. He works for me as much as for your family. I spend my own money." "The one who needs to leave," Isabella said, pulling out her phone, "is you." She made a call. Within minutes, the compound's manager arrived, a nervous man named Paolo who'd always been respectful to me. Until now. "Mrs. Moretti," he said, not meeting my eyes, "I've received instructions from the Castellano family. Your reservation, it needs to be canceled immediately." "I paid in advance," I protested. "Full payment. How can you cancel?" Paolo's face was pale. "Miss Isabella came with the family's lawyers. They say this payment needs to be returned. I run a small operation. I can't risk a war with the Castellanos. If they decide to shut me down, industry regulations, fire safety, any excuse, they can destroy me overnight." Isabella smiled triumphantly. "Or I could simply tell Don Castellano you're colluding with Valentina in money laundering. Your choice, Paolo." My heart hammered. This was more than just eviction. This was humiliation, public dismissal. In the Mafia world, respect was everything. Without it, you were nothing. Paolo's hands shook as he handed me a document. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Moretti, I truly am, but this order is $500,000. That's my entire year's profit, and Miss Isabella has the Don's authority. Perhaps you could call Marco? Surely he can resolve this?" Isabella's laugh was sharp. "Call him? He would never disrespect me for some unrelated woman. Go ahead, call your husband. Watch him choose." My fingers trembled as I dialed Marco's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm and intimate. "Hello, beautiful. Calling so late? Can't sleep? Miss me already?" "Marco," I said, my voice cracking. There's a problem. Isabella is here. She's trying to collect payment for the maternity suite. She says you didn't have authorization. Brother Marco. Isabella's voice cut in, loud enough for him to hear. I can't sleep either. There's an unauthorized expense, $500,000. You approved it without permission. Did you forget the family rules? Silence on the other end. Then Marco's voice, distant now, professional. My mistake. Get the money back. Take the lawyers with you. Do what needs to be done. No, I whispered. Marco, please. Goodbye, Valentina. Don't call me over small matters again. The line went dead. Isabella's smile widened. See? Even your own husband knows you're worthless, and nobody trying to live above her station. She circled me like a predator. You really thought you could secure your position by having his child? How naive. In our world, children are currency, and yours. She leaned down toward Alessandro's bassinet. Yours might be worth more dead than alive. Insurance, inheritance. Think about it. Don't you dare touch my son. I lunged forward, putting myself between Isabella and my baby. Paulo grabbed my arm. Mrs. Moretti, please, you need to leave. Now, I'm refunding the money. Take your things and go. It's raining, I said desperately. It's pouring outside. I just gave birth 3 days ago. My baby will freeze. Not my problem, Paulo said, his face full of forced cruelty. He was afraid. They'd broken him. Security. 2 large men appeared. They began packing my belongings roughly, throwing clothes into bags, not caring what they damaged. Isabella pulled out an envelope. Here's your refund, $500,000 as promised. She waved it in front of me, then tucked it into her designer purse. Oh wait, this is actually Marco's money. Family money. I'll be keeping it. Consider it payment for all the resources you've wasted. You can't. I can do whatever I want. Your husband gave me full authority over all finances, including his personal accounts. She leaned close, her perfume overpowering. You want to know a secret? Isabella's whisper was venomous. Remember the night you gave birth? When you were screaming for Marco, begging him to come to the hospital? I remembered. God, I remembered. The pain, the fear, calling his name over and over. He was with me, Isabella continued, all night, in my bed. I called him, told him I wasn't feeling well, and he came running. He knew it was your due date. He knew you were alone, but he chose me. The words hit like physical blows. You're lying. Am I? Call him now. Ask him where he was that night. Ask him why he missed his son's birth. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. Marco, asleep in a bed I didn't recognize, Isabella's arm draped over him, the timestamp, the night Alessandro was born. My vision blurred. The room spun. You see, Valentina, Isabella said, standing. You were never the wife. You were always just the obligation. The mistake he's stuck with. Now get out, and take that bastard child with you. The security guards grabbed my arms. They dragged me toward the door, my bags scattered behind us. My baby, I screamed. Let me get my baby. They threw Alessandro's carrier at me. I caught it, barely, rain already soaking through my thin hospital clothes as they shoved me outside. The door slammed. I stood in the pouring rain, 3 days postpartum, bleeding through my clothes, my newborn son screaming in my arms, and I understood. Finally, completely. I was alone, but I wasn't helpless. I'd hidden my identity for 3 years. 3 years of pretending to be nobody, trying to give Marco a real marriage, not an arranged one dictated by Mafia politics. But my father, Don Vittorio Romano, had given me something before I disappeared into my normal life. A phone. A single number programmed in, for emergencies only. If anyone ever harms you, he'd said, his weathered hands cupping my face, you call this number. You call, and your brother will come. You call, and the world will remember who you are. I'd promised never to use it unless my life depended on it. My life depended on it now. With shaking hands, rain pounding down, my baby crying, I pulled the phone from my bag and dialed. It rang once. Valentina? My brother Antonio's voice was sharp, alert despite the late hour. Where are you? Antonio, I sobbed. I need help. They threw me out. Marco, the baby, I'm bleeding. Where are you? Each word was a bullet. Outside the Rossi maternity compound. Route 9. Antonio, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to call, but stay on the line. Don't move. I'm 10 minutes away. True to his word, 9 minutes later, a convoy of black SUVs screamed into the parking lot. Antonio burst out of the lead vehicle, his face twisted in rage I'd never seen before. Valentina. He ran to me, his expensive suit instantly soaked. He pulled off his jacket, wrapped it around me and Alessandro. Who did this? Who dared? Marco, I whispered, and Isabella Castellano. They said I wasn't authorized to be here. They took the money. They said. Antonio's eyes were black ice. They will regret the day they were born. He carried me to the SUV himself, barking orders into his phone. Get Dr. Salvatore to the compound immediately. My sister needs medical attention. And find Marco Moretti. I want to know where he is, what he's doing, and who he's with. Now. Within minutes, we were at my father's private compound, a fortress I hadn't seen in 3 years. The guards snapped to attention when they saw me. Word spread like wildfire. The Don's daughter had returned. Dr. Salvatore was already waiting. He examined me quickly, his face grave. She's hemorrhaging. Infection from being in the rain. She needs surgery immediately. Do it, Antonio commanded. Save my sister. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, I saw my father appear at the end of the hallway. Don Vittorio Romano, 70 years old but still commanding, still dangerous. Our eyes met. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The single tear running down his weathered face said everything. I woke in a pristine medical suite, surrounded by machines and the smell of antiseptic. My father sat beside my bed, holding my hand. His face was older than I remembered, more lined, but his eyes were the same, sharp, calculating, deadly when needed. Valentina, he said softly. My daughter, my precious daughter. You suffered so much. Papa. My voice was hoarse. I'm sorry, I wanted to prove I could make it on my own, that I didn't need the family name, that Marco could love me for me, not for being a Romano. And look what it cost you. His hand tightened on mine. The boy who didn't deserve you has learned nothing but cruelty. The woman who torments you knows nothing of respect. The family that turned their back on you, the Castellanos, they've forgotten something important. What's that? His smile was terrifying. They've forgotten that in this world there are the hunters and the hunted. And the Romano family has never been prey. He stood, straightening his suit. Rest, daughter. Heal. Your son is safe. Your mother hasn't stopped holding him since you went into surgery. And while you rest, I will remind the underworld of something they seem to have forgotten. What's that, Papa? That Valentina Romano is not some disposable wife. She is blood. She is family. She is untouchable. And anyone who harms her, his voice dropped to a whisper, will learn why the Romano name is spoken only in fear and respect. The next morning, Antonio brought me breakfast personally, something he'd never done when we were kids. He was the heir, the crown prince. I was the protected princess. But now his face was full of guilt and rage. Tell me everything, he said. From the beginning, I need to know exactly what Marco and his people did to you. So I told him everything. How I'd met Marco at a neutral territory meeting 3 years ago. How I'd fallen for his charm, his ambition, his promises. How I'd hidden my identity, taken the name Moretti instead of Romano, lived in a modest apartment, helped him build his territory without him knowing my connections. I wanted him to love me for me, I said, not for the power I could bring him. And instead he used you, betrayed you, and discarded you like trash. Antonio's jaw was tight. The Castellano family will pay for this disrespect. But first, we need to understand the full scope of what's happened. He pulled out a tablet, showed me surveillance photos. Marco and Isabella at restaurants, at clubs, at her apartment, dates, times, locations. My brother had been tracking them for hours. This woman, Isabella Castellano, Antonio said. She's not just some accountant, she's Don Castellano's niece, his favorite. She's been placed close to Marco deliberately, to control him, to use him. The Castellanos are trying to expand into our territories. Marco was their pawn, and you. He looked at me with something like pity. You were collateral damage. They used my love against me, I whispered. Yes, but now we'll use their arrogance against them. 1 week later, I was healed enough to move around. My father called a family meeting, the kind that only happened for declarations of war or major territorial changes. The Romano estate's main hall was full. 30 capos, 50 soldiers, all the family's inner circle. They stood when I entered, a sign of respect I hadn't experienced in years. I walked to the front, my father on one side, Antonio on the other. Many of you don't know my daughter, Don Vittorio began. For 3 years she has been away, living a normal life. She married a man from the Castellano organization. We allowed this because she asked us to. Because she wanted love, not arrangement. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But the Castellanos have forgotten something. My father's voice hardened. They've forgotten that when you touch a Romano, you touch all of us. When you disrespect a Romano, you disrespect our blood. And when you throw a Romano into the street like garbage, pregnant, bleeding, dying, you declare war. The room went silent. My daughter built territory for the man she loved. She used her intelligence, her connections, her mind to help him succeed. And how did he repay her? By taking another woman to his bed, by allowing his family to steal from her, by abandoning her when she needed him most. Antonio stepped forward. The Castellano family thinks they can expand into our territories. They think their alliance with the Moretti crew gives them leverage. They're rotted to a soldier who wheeled in a large screen. Images appeared. Marco, Isabella, various Castellano capos, financial records, territory maps, shipping manifests. For the past week, Antonio continued, we've been investigating, and we've discovered something interesting. The Moretti crew, which Marco Moretti leads, actually operates on territory that Valentina personally secured 3 years ago. Every port, every warehouse, every distribution point, she negotiated those deals, she brokered those relationships. Under a shell company, yes, but the paperwork is ironclad. He clicked to the next slide, which means, legally and by underworld law, Marco Moretti has been operating on Romano territory, without permission, without payment, without respect. The room erupted in angry mutters. We have 3 choices, my father said, silencing the crowd. 1, we let this insult stand. We accept that the Romano family can be disrespected without consequence. We become weak. Nobody spoke. Weakness meant death in our world. 2, we retaliate with violence. We go to war with the Castellanos. Blood for blood, territory for territory. But war is costly. People die. Business suffers. The other families might take advantage. More mutters, but thoughtful now. 3, Don Vittorio smiled. We do what the Romano family does best. We outthink them, we outmaneuver them, we take everything they have without firing a single shot, and we remind the entire underworld why you don't cross us. How? Someone called out. My father looked at me. Valentina, would you like to explain? I stepped forward, my heart pounding. I hadn't spoken at a family meeting since I was a teenager. But I'd spent 3 years watching Marco operate. I knew exactly how to destroy him. Marco Moretti thinks he's untouchable, I began. He thinks because Don Castellano favors him, because Isabella protects him, he can do anything. But he's made 3 critical mistakes. I clicked to the first image, a shipping contract. First, every major deal he's brokered in the last 2 years went through a company called Sentinel Holdings. He thinks it's a neutral third party. It's not. It's mine. I control it. Which means I control his supply chains, his distribution networks, his entire operation. Shocked murmurs. Second, I continued, clicking to financial records, he's been skimming. Not from the Castellanos, he's too smart for that. From his own crew. Small amounts, a few thousand here and there, but it adds up. Over 3 years, he's stolen almost $2 million from his own soldiers. I have proof. Bank accounts, wire transfers, everything. Now the room was buzzing with excitement. Third, I said, and most importantly, he doesn't know who I am. Neither do the Castellanos. They think I'm just some woman he married. Maybe for a dowry, maybe because I was pregnant. They have no idea I'm a Romano. I looked around the room. So here's what we do. We invite them to a meeting, a business negotiation, something neutral. Marco comes, Isabella comes, maybe even Don Castellano himself. We present them with evidence of Marco's theft. We offer to help them handle the problem. And then? Antonio asked, though he was smiling. He'd already figured it out. And then, when they're relaxed, when they think they're in control, when they believe they've gotten away with disrespecting me. I paused for effect. We show them who I really am. We show them that every territory they thought they controlled is actually ours. We show them that Marco's entire operation is built on Romano foundations, and we give them a choice. What choice? My father asked. Submit completely, give us a 60% cut of everything, every territory, every operation. Or, I smiled, we'd pull our support, expose Marco's theft, and watch the Castellanos tear themselves apart from the inside. The room erupted in applause. 2 weeks later, the meeting was set. Neutral ground, the Giordano family's restaurant, owned by a family that brokered deals and stayed out of conflicts. Marco, Isabella, and 3 Castellano capos arrived right on time. I watched from a private room upstairs, my father beside me, Antonio standing guard at the door. We could see everything through one-way glass. Marco looked confident, arrogant even. He wore an expensive suit, one I'd bought him for our first anniversary. Isabella clung to his arm, whispering in his ear. They look like a couple. Like they belong together. Something cold settled in my chest. Not heartbreak anymore, just resolve. The Giordano family's representative, an elderly man named Salvatore, entered the room. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you for coming. We have a delicate matter to discuss. Make it quick, Marco said, checking his watch. I have business to attend to. Salvatore slid a folder across the table. This concerns your business, Mr. Moretti, specifically financial discrepancies in your operations over the past 3 years. Marco's face went white. Isabella grabbed the folder, flipping through it. Her confident smile faded. This is, she started, then stopped. Where did you get this? From someone who's been watching very carefully, Salvatore said. Someone who's been documenting every transaction, every deal, every stolen dollar. Stolen? Marco laughed, but it sounded forced. I don't know what you're talking about. Then perhaps this will refresh your memory. Salvatore nodded to his assistant, who wheeled in a screen. Bank statements appeared, Marco's personal accounts showing deposits that didn't match his legitimate income. $2 million, Salvatore read, taken from various operations, laundered through shell companies, deposited into accounts under false names. But we traced them all back to you. The Castellano capos were staring at Marco now, their faces hard. This is a setup, Marco shouted, standing. Someone's trying to frame me. Sit down, one of the Castellano capos growled. Explain these numbers. I can explain. Then explain, Isabella hissed. Because if this is true, you've been stealing from the family, and you know what happens to thieves. Marco's hands shook as he flipped through the documents. I could see his mind racing, trying to find an excuse, a lie, anything to save himself. It's Valentina, he finally said. My wife. She must have done this. She's been acting crazy since the baby was born, making accusations, trying to turn everyone against me. She probably created these fake documents to... To what? Salvatore interrupted. To frame you? Why would she have access to your private accounts, your personal businesses? Unless, he paused meaningfully, unless she was deeply involved in your operations from the beginning. She's nobody, Marco insisted. Just a woman I married. She has no power, no connections, nothing. Is that so? My father's voice came through the speaker system, echoing in the room below, because we have someone here who disagrees. All eyes turned to the door as it opened. I walked in. My appearance had changed. No more modest clothes, no more trying to blend in. I wore a tailored black suit, my hair pulled back, my mother's diamond necklace, a Romano family heirloom around my neck. Antonio flanked my left, 2 soldiers flanked my right. Marco's mouth fell open. Valentina, what are you doing here? Hello, Marco, I said calmly. Or should I say, hello to everyone? Allow me to properly introduce myself. I walked to the head of the table, my heels clicking on marble. My name is not Valentina Moretti. It never was. My name is Valentina Romano, daughter of Don Vittorio Romano, sole heiress to the Romano crime family, which controls shipping, distribution, and territory from Boston to Miami. The color drained from Isabella's face. That's impossible, Marco whispered. You're nobody. You came from nothing. Your family was dead, I finished. Yes, that's what I told you. I told you I was an orphan, that I had no family, that I was alone in the world. I lied. I walked around the table slowly, letting them see me, really see me for the first time. 3 years ago, I met you at a neutral territory meeting. I was there representing my father, though you didn't know it. I watched you work, listened to you talk about your ambitions, your plans. You were smart, hungry, genuine, so I did something incredibly stupid. I stopped in front of Marco. I fell in love with you, and I decided to see if you could love me back. Not as Valentina Romano, Mafia princess, but as just Valentina, a normal woman. So you lied to me, Marco said, anger creeping into his voice. You deceived me. I gave you a chance, I corrected. A chance to prove you were different from all the men who only wanted me for my name, my connections, my father's power. And for a while I thought you were different. I pulled out a chair, sat down across from him. But you weren't. You took everything I built for you. Every connection, every territory deal, every successful negotiation. And you took credit for it. You thought you were brilliant. You thought you were rising through the ranks on your own merit. I slid a folder across to him. Every territory you control, I negotiated those deals. Every shipping route, I brokered those relationships. Every warehouse, every dock, every distribution point, I secured them. Through shell companies, yes, through intermediaries, but me. All me. Isabella grabbed the folder, reading frantically. Her face went from white to red. This can't be real. Marco, tell them this isn't real. But Marco couldn't speak. He was staring at the documents, seeing his entire world collapse in real time. And the money you stole, I continued. I know about that too. Because every account you thought was hidden, I set up. Every shell company you thought was secret, I created. I've been documenting everything, waiting for the right moment. Why? Marco finally managed. Why would you do all this? Because I wanted to give you a chance to prove you weren't like everyone else, I said softly. But then you chose Isabella over me. You abandoned me when I gave birth to your son. You threw me into the street to die, and that's when I realized you never loved me. You loved what I could give you, and when you thought I had nothing left to give, you discarded me. Don Castellano himself entered the restaurant, his presence immediately commanding attention. He was an older man, heavy-set, with cold eyes that missed nothing. Someone want to explain, he growled, why I'm hearing rumors about my organization being built on Romano territory. My father entered behind him. Because it's not a rumor, Vincent, it's fact. The two Dons faced each other, a moment of tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. These men had been rivals for 30 years, always circling, always testing, never quite going to war. Vittorio? Don Castellano said slowly, I didn't know your daughter was involved in any of this. Because she chose to hide, my father replied. She wanted a normal life, a normal love. But your nephew's boy here, he nodded at Marco. He couldn't even give her basic respect. She lied to me, Marco shouted. She deceived all of us. She tested you, Antonio corrected, stepping forward. She gave you a chance to be a good man. You failed, spectacularly. Don Castellano looked at the documents Salvatore had laid out. His face darkened as he read. Finally, he looked up at Marco. Is this true? Did you steal from your own crews? I can explain. Did you abandon your wife while she was giving birth? Marco's silence was answer enough. Don Castellano turned to Isabella. And you, my favorite niece, you threw a woman who'd just given birth into the street? You threatened her child? Isabella's confidence finally cracked. Uncle, I didn't know who she was. If I'd known she was a Romano. So you only respect people based on their family name? My father interrupted. Not because it's the right thing to do? Not because a woman with a newborn baby deserves basic human decency? The room was silent. Let me make something very clear, Don Castellano said, his voice like gravel. What was done to this woman is unacceptable. Family name or not, we don't treat women and children this way. That's not who we are. He looked at Marco. You're done. Stripped of rank, stripped of territory, stripped of protection. Whatever the Romanos want to do with you, I won't interfere. Uncle, Isabella protested. And you, Don Castellano turned to her. You're my blood, so I won't hand you over. But you're out. No more position, no more allowance, no more protection. You embarrassed this family. You made us look weak and cruel. Fix yourself, or don't come back. Marco lunged across the table at me, rage twisting his features. You bitch. You ruined everything. I loved you. Antonio moved like lightning, grabbing Marco by the throat and slamming him against the wall. Touch my sister again, and they won't find your body. You never loved her, my father said calmly. You loved what she built for you. Now you're going to learn what it's like to have nothing. He nodded to the soldiers. Take everything, his accounts, his properties, his cars, everything under his name. It all goes back to Valentina, the person who actually earned it. You can't do this, Marco gasped, Antonio's hand still on his throat. The Castellanos will. The Castellanos just disowned you, I said, standing. You heard Don Castellano. You're nobody now, just like you thought I was. I walked up to him, looked him in the eyes. You know what the worst part is? I really did love you. I gave you 3 years of my life, my loyalty, my trust. I gave you a son. And you threw it all away for a woman who was using you the whole time. I turned to Isabella. You wanted him so badly? He's yours. Enjoy being broke together. As I walked toward the door, Marco called out, Valentina, please. We can fix this. I'll do better. You'll what? I stopped, didn't turn around. Respect me now that you know who I am? Love me, now that you can't use me anymore? No, Marco. We're done. You're done. The baby, he tried. Alessandro, he's my son. You can't keep me from. I can do whatever I want, I said coldly. My son will be raised as a Romano. He'll learn honor, loyalty, and respect. Everything you lack. He'll never even know your name. I walked out without looking back. 6 months passed. In that time, everything changed. Marco Moretti became a ghost story in the underworld, a cautionary tale about what happens when you disrespect the wrong woman. He tried to rebuild, tried to find work with other families, but the word had spread. He was toxic, disloyal, weak. Isabella fared slightly better. Don Castellano eventually took her back, but in the lowest position possible. She worked as a courier now, delivering messages, running errands. I heard she'd seen me once, across a restaurant, and left immediately. As for me, I took over a significant portion of the Romano family operations. My father, getting older, was ready to step back. Antonio would inherit the title of Don, but I would manage the actual business. The territories, the deals, the relationships. I was good at it, better than anyone expected. Better than even I expected. One evening I was reviewing shipping manifests in my office when Antonio knocked. There's someone here to see you, he said, his expression unreadable. Says it's important. Who? Dante Salvatore. I looked up sharply. Dante Salvatore was the head of the Salvatore family, one of the oldest, most respected crime families in America. They didn't get involved in petty politics or territory wars. They were the arbiters, the peacekeepers, the family everyone respected. Show him in. Dante Salvatore entered, and I understood immediately why he commanded such respect. He was in his late 30s, tall, with dark hair and darker eyes that seemed to see everything. He moved with quiet confidence, not the aggressive posturing of men trying to prove something, but the calm assurance of someone who didn't need to. Miss Romano, he said, his voice smooth. Thank you for seeing me. Mr. Salvatore? To what do I owe the honor? He smiled slightly. I wanted to meet the woman who's been the talk of the underworld for the past 6 months. The Mafia princess who brought down a crew without firing a single shot. Hardly brought down, I said, gesturing for him to sit. Marco Moretti managed that himself. True. But you orchestrated it beautifully. Dante settled into the chair across from my desk. I've been watching your operations, the way you've restructured your father's territories, improved efficiency, reduced conflicts. You're doing something interesting. And what's that? You're proving that this life doesn't have to be about violence and ego. You're showing that intelligence, strategy, and respect can be more powerful than guns. I studied him carefully. Why are you here, Mr. Salvatore? Call me Dante. He leaned forward slightly. I'm here because I see potential for an alliance. The Salvatore and Romano families working together. We handle different territories, different specializations. There's no conflict of interest. Only mutual benefit. My father would have to approve. Your father already knows I'm here. He gave his blessing for me to speak with you directly. Dante's smile widened. He said, and I quote, if you can impress Valentina, you can have the alliance, but if you waste your time, don't come back. Despite myself, I laughed. That sounded exactly like Papa. So, Dante continued, let me not waste your time. I'm proposing a full partnership. The Salvatore family controls the West Coast, technology, and digital operations. You control the East Coast, shipping, and traditional distribution. Together, we could create the most powerful alliance in North America. And what do you get out of it? I asked. Besides my father's territories? Besides the obvious strategic advantages? Dante's expression grew serious. I get to work with someone I respect, someone who understands that this life is changing. That the old ways, the violence, the machismo, the treating women as property, that's dying. The future belongs to people like you, people who can think 3 steps ahead. He pulled out a folder, slid it across my desk. This is my proposal. Full breakdown of territories, revenue sharing, dispute resolution. Read it, think about it, and if you're interested, we can discuss terms. I picked up the folder but didn't open it. Why me specifically? My brother Antonio is the heir. Antonio is a soldier, Dante said bluntly. A good one, loyal and strong, but you're the strategist. You're the one who sees the whole board, not just the next move. That's who I want as a partner. 3 weeks later, I agreed to the alliance. The formal signing took place at a neutral venue, a private club in Manhattan that catered to the elite of both the legitimate business world and the underworld. My entire family came, Papa, looking proud in his finest suit. Antonio, protective as always, scanning the room for threats. My mother, finally getting to see me in my element, tears of joy in her eyes. The Salvatore family arrived with equal force. Dante's father, the retired Don, came despite his age and health issues. His sisters, his cousins, his capos, all dressed for a celebration. As I signed the contract making our alliance official, Dante leaned close and whispered, "You know this is more than business, right?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, his dark eyes holding mine, "I didn't just come here to sign papers. I came because 6 months ago, when I first heard about what happened to you, how you were treated, how you survived, how you rebuilt, something changed for me. My heart started beating faster. I watched you from a distance. I saw how you handled Marco's betrayal, not with violence but with intelligence. How you protected your son while destroying the people who hurt you. How you stepped into power without losing your humanity." He paused, and I realized I'd never met anyone like you. "Dante, I'm not asking for anything," he interrupted gently. "I know you've been hurt. I know you have a son to protect. I know trust doesn't come easily anymore. I'm just saying, when you're ready, if you ever want more than a business partnership, I'll be here." Before I could respond, my father called us over for the official photographs. The moment passed, but Dante's words stayed with me. A year later, I stood in the same restaurant where I'd confronted Marco, the Giordano family's neutral ground. But this time, it wasn't for conflict. It was for celebration. Dante had proposed 3 months earlier. A real proposal, not an arranged marriage, not a strategic alliance, but genuine love. He'd waited patiently for me to heal, to learn to trust again, to see that not all men were like Marco. The wedding was small, family only. Both our families, united now not just by business but by blood. Alessandro, now almost 2 years old, toddled around the room, charmed by everyone he met. As I watched him laugh with his grandfather, I felt arms wrap around me from behind. "Dante." "Happy?" he murmured in my ear. "Happy," I confirmed. "Any regrets?" I thought about Marco, about the pain he'd caused, about the woman I'd been when I loved him, naive, hopeful, willing to give up everything for love. "No regrets," I said. "Everything I went through led me here, to this moment, to you, to understanding my own strength." "You know," Dante said, turning me to face him, "there's a rumor going around the underworld about you." "Just one?" he laughed. "They're calling you La Regina Ombra, the Shadow Queen, the woman who controls half the East Coast without anyone seeing her coming." "I like it." "I thought you would." He kissed my forehead. "Just remember, even queens need someone to watch their back. Is that your way of saying you'll always protect me?" "No," Dante said seriously. "It's my way of saying I'll always stand beside you. Not in front, not behind. Beside. As equals." That night, after the celebration ended, I found myself alone in my father's study. He was sipping whiskey, looking out over the city lights. "You did well, Valentina," he said without turning around. "Better than I ever imagined. I learned from the best." "No." He turned now, his eyes soft. "You learned from pain, from betrayal, from having everything stripped away and finding the strength to rebuild. That's not something I could teach you." "Papa, can I ask you something?" "Anything, daughter." "Do you think I'm too ruthless now? Too cold? Marco used to say I was warm, loving. Now people call me the Shadow Queen. They fear me." My father walked over, took my hand. "Let me tell you something about respect in our world. Fear is cheap. Anyone can be feared. Just hurt enough people, break enough rules. But respect, true respect, that's earned. And you've earned it by being smart, being strong, and being just. I destroyed Marco's entire life." "You held him accountable for his actions," Papa corrected. "There's a difference. He chose to betray you. He chose to steal. He chose to throw you into the street. You simply ensured he faced consequences for those choices." "And Isabella?" "The same. She chose cruelty. She chose to use her family's power to hurt someone weaker. Now she lives with those consequences." He squeezed my hand. "You're not cold, Valentina. You're wise. You've learned that in this world, showing weakness invites predators. But with people you trust, your family, your son Dante, you're still the same loving girl I raised. You've just learned when to show that side and when to show the Shadow Queen. What if I can't balance both? I asked. What if one day I lose the soft parts and only the cold parts remain? My father smiled. Then Alessandro will remind you. Children have a way of keeping us human, of reminding us what we're fighting for. As if summoned, my son toddled into the room, his face lit up. Mama! I scooped him up, and he giggled, his tiny hands grabbing my face. In that moment, all the power, all the respect, all the fear, none of it mattered. I was just Mama, just a woman who loved her son more than anything. See? My father said softly. You'll never lose yourself, not with him to ground you. 2 years after the wedding, I received an unexpected visitor. My assistant buzzed my office, her voice uncertain. Mrs. Salvatore, there's a woman here. She says her name is Isabella Castellano. I felt my blood run cold, then hot. What does she want? She says she needs help, that only you can help her. Every instinct screamed to send her away, to have security throw her out the same way she'd done to me. But curiosity won. Send her in. Isabella walked into my office and I barely recognized her. The confident, cruel woman who'd tormented me was gone. In her place was someone broken, thin, pale, her designer clothes replaced by simple, cheap garments. Valentina, she said, her voice cracking. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes, I said coldly. Talk. I know you have no reason to help me. I know what I did to you is unforgivable. But I'm desperate, and you're the only person with the power to. She stopped, swallowed hard. My brother, my younger brother Antonio, he's in trouble. What kind of trouble? He's gambling debts, $1 million to the wrong people. Russian mob, they're going to kill him if he doesn't pay by the end of the week. I leaned back in my chair. And you want me to pay his debt? Not pay it, just delay it. Give me time to raise the money. I'm working 3 jobs. I've sold everything I own, but it's not enough, and time is running out. Why should I help you? I asked. You threw me into the street, you mocked my son, you threatened my child's life. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't let your brother face the consequences of his choices. Isabella's face crumpled. Because I was wrong. Everything I did to you was wrong. I was jealous, bitter, and cruel. I convinced myself you deserved it because you had Marco's attention and I didn't. But the truth is, I was just a terrible person, and I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down her face. I've spent 2 years living with what I did. Every night I see your face in the rain, holding your baby, bleeding. I hear you begging for help, and I remember how I laughed. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm just asking you to show my brother the mercy I never showed you. I studied her for a long moment. Every part of me wanted to say no, to let her brother suffer, to let her feel the helplessness she'd inflicted on me. But then I thought about Alessandro, about the kind of man I wanted him to become, about the lessons I wanted to teach him. I'll pay the debt, I said finally. Isabella's eyes widened. What? Why would you? Because I'm not you. I interrupted. Because I refuse to let what you did to me turn me into what you were, and because your brother's mistakes aren't yours to pay for. I pulled out my phone, made a call. Antonio? I need you to handle something. Russian mob debt $1 million. The debtor's name is Antonio Castellano. I paused, listening. Yes, that Castellano. Pay it. Consider it handled. I hung up, looked at Isabella. It's done. Your brother's debt is cleared. She collapsed into the chair, sobbing. I don't understand. After everything I did? Consider it a lesson, I said, in mercy, in being better than your worst moment, in understanding that vengeance might feel good temporarily, but choosing kindness, even when it's hard, that's real power. Isabella looked up at me, mascara running down her face. How do I repay you? You don't, I said, but you can do one thing. You can go to your brother, tell him what happened, and make sure he understands the value of a second chance. And then you both need to be better people than you were. As she left, Dante entered. He'd been listening from the adjoining office. That was incredibly generous, he said. Some would say too generous. Maybe, I agreed. But I don't want to be the kind of person who holds on to hatred forever. Isabella made terrible choices. She hurt me deeply, but I won't let her mistakes define my actions. Dante kissed my temple. This is why I love you. You have the strength to destroy people, but the wisdom to choose mercy instead. Only when they deserve it, I clarified. Isabella showed genuine remorse. If she'd come here arrogant or demanding, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Fair enough. 5 years later, Alessandro was 7 years old. He'd grown into a smart, curious boy who asked too many questions and never accepted simple answers. One evening, he found me in my office, going through territory reports. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Always, baby. Why don't I have a daddy like other kids?" I felt my heart clench. We'd avoided this conversation, but I'd known it was coming. "You do have a daddy, sweetheart. Just a different kind. Dante's not really my daddy though, right? He's my stepfather." "Dante loves you like you're his own son," I said carefully. "But you're right, your biological father is someone else." "Where is he?" "Not in our lives anymore." "Why not?" I pulled Alessandro onto my lap, even though he was getting big for it. "Because sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people. Your biological father made choices that hurt me, hurt you, hurt a lot of people. So we had to leave and build a new life." "Was he mean to you?" "Yes, he was." Alessandro thought about this. Then he looked up at me with his serious eyes. Eyes that reminded me so much of my father's. "Good that we left then. Nobody should be mean to my mama." I hugged him tight, fighting tears. "You're absolutely right. And Dante is nice to you? Very nice." "Good." Alessandro nodded firmly. "Then he can be my daddy. The other one doesn't deserve to be." Out of the mouths of children. 10 years after Marco's betrayal, I stood on the balcony of my home, a beautiful estate overlooking the ocean. Dante came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. "Thinking about old times?" he asked. "Not really," I said honestly. "Just thinking about how far we've come, how different life is now." "Any regrets?" "None. Everything that happened, the pain, the betrayal, even the worst moments, they made me who I am. They taught me my own strength." Below us, Alessandro played basketball with his younger sister, Sofia, mine and Dante's daughter, born 3 years ago. Their laughter drifted up, pure and joyful. "You know," Dante said, "I heard something interesting yesterday." "What's that?" "Marco Moretti tried to contact Antonio, wanted to meet you apparently, said he's been in therapy, working on himself, wants to apologize properly and meet his son." I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no curiosity, just indifference. "What did Antonio tell him?" "That if he ever tries to contact our family again, he'll regret it for the rest of his very short life." "Good. You don't want to hear him out? Let him apologize?" "No," I said simply. "I don't need his apology. I don't need his acknowledgement. I don't need anything from him. That chapter of my life is closed. This," I gestured to our children playing, to the empire we'd built together, to the family we'd created. "This is my life now." Dante kissed my neck. "The Shadow Queen has spoken." I laughed. "You know, I used to hate that nickname. Now I kind of like it." "Why?" "Because it reminds me that I survived, that I went from being thrown in the street like garbage to being one of the most powerful women in the underworld, that I turned my pain into power, that I won." My phone buzzed. A message from my father. "Family dinner Sunday. Your mother insists. Don't be late." I smiled. Some things never changed. "Come on," I said, taking Dante's hand. "Let's go play with the kids before dinner." As we walked downstairs, I caught my reflection in a mirror. The woman looking back at me was strong, confident, powerful. A far cry from the broken woman bleeding in the rain all those years ago. But she was also happy, surrounded by love, protected by people who valued her. Marco had thought he could break me. The Castellanos had thought they could discard me. They'd all thought I was nothing without them. They'd been wrong. I hadn't just survived, I'd thrived. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.